You're listening to the New York Said Podcast.
Fear not, my friends. This will be my greatest performance.
Give it to me.
Here we go. We came, we saw, we kicked its ass.
It was good seeing you at the press opening, and I saw you moving and grooving, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to check in and I'm going to check out. I'm not going to be in your way.
I'm so appreciative you just like the human, just like, hi, we'll be chatting later. It's like, great. Good to know.
And I just wanted to congratulate you on a great show.
Thank you.
I really found myself just really getting lost in how great the work was. I got to see works that I wouldn't normally see in person. There was so many pieces where I was just like, I don't know if everyone realizes the magnitude of the fact that this is here.
Yeah.
And a good example would be the Arthur Jafa.
Big Wheel.
The Big Wheel
one, yeah.
Can you talk about the installation of that? Because I mean, that is just epic.
The actual installation of it really was epic because there is a whole team that installs it. And we were just there just watching them like get all the chains out to really lift it and get it in place. And one of the gentlemen who now does it was like, I guess he's a welder. And so he had the original kind of like the armature that it hangs from. And basically the artist wound up buying it from it because he liked it. Like, can I paint it and buy? I mean, it's like the story that I kept hearing about, you know, the development of that piece is really interesting. Just first of all, just seeing that it's like 2 tons, I guess. I can't even imagine how heavy it is, wheel. And so that, you know, the legacy of kind of monster truck rallies
in Mississippi.
Right, in Mississippi. I've never been to one, but I used to see them on, you know, I would see the advertising for like coming. I grew up in, you know, in Chicago, so kind of in other parts of Illinois, and then wanting to do that. And then, so I just think the power of that actual piece and then the chains around it and really thinking about, you know, the legacy and relationship of regional history, the complicated nature just of just, you know, maybe being Southern, of just trying to grapple with that history, but also still being very like loving the state that you're from and finding incredible stories, or I'm not even thinking of the right word, but there's the incredible aspects, you know, of that culture, of, you know, Mississippi culture, Southern culture, and you kind of being a part of it, but also being very cognizant of the issues within it.
Yes.
That's what I was trying to get to.
You got there. Woo. You got there. Yeah. I went to undergrad. I grew up in Queens, and my pop ended up living in Mississippi for whatever life reason. And so I ended up moving to Mississippi for 2 years. And the culture shock was, you know, there's a bravado of being from New York. I'll just say it, you know. But when I got to Mississippi, I just remember being humbled because I got to understand for myself and not from what I was reading and seeing and hearing about. The people that I was meeting were actual magic, and the things that I've learned from that experience still resonate today.
Yeah.
Not to keep harping on Arthur Jafa, but his work, you know, in order to see his work, you normally have to like stumble upon it, word of mouth. It's very, like, I remember once he posted some random thing on Instagram and I ended up in Harlem and I saw a film, but it wasn't like widely promoted or anything. You just kind of like had to know or be very curious. So to see Arthur Jafa at the Brooklyn Museum, and I'm like, okay. And it's by design because I know he comes and goes as he pleases throughout, because I've seen his work in Amsterdam, and to now be in the center of a giant piece in a show called Giants, it just makes sense.
Right. And I think also if you do know his work, or if you think you know his work, I should say, you associate him with film. That's the most of what I've seen of his work. So seeing this sculptural work really just kind of twisted me a bit. And I think that's what I love about when I get to work on shows like this, because, you know, a similar, I think, story can be had with the Barclay Hendricks. People know of him for these larger than life figurative paintings, but he loved these landscapes. This is what he wished people were actually buying of his. And so the fact that the Deans have this, it just reminds us viewers, the public, the art world, how often the art world will skew the understanding of a person's practice.
Yes.
And that we always have to be very curious and questioning on, okay, I'm seeing this, but what else?
Yep.
Is there more? What am I missing maybe? What other ideas, topics, techniques, mediums do I not associate because I haven't seen it
Right.
or had access to see it? So I hope that people really come with a strong sense of curiosity.
So do I. I also hope that they do more digging.
Yes.
Even with the Ernie Barnes, I'm looking at the painting. I'm like, I'm standing in front of an Ernie Barnes, but I couldn't really place it. And then when I came home, started doing the research, I'm like, oh my God, the Sugar Shack. So like,
right, exactly.
Like Ernie Barnes's work has been in front of me my entire life, but to have it, I can be so close to it that I can see the strokes. That in itself is a gift.
Right. And I think, again, to your point, he's known for that painting.
Yep.
But then once you look into it, you go, oh my God, his whole story and the fact that his passion for art and that he's a football player. I mean, just like the story and then his skill, seeing that from that first painting to a much later, to a mid-career. And then you've got the Esther Malangu next to it.
Yes.
That woman is in her 90s, the whole legacy of Indebele house painting. So people will be introduced to names they don't know.
Yes.
Which is one of the specific reasons why I selected a range of artists from names that I think are much more in the public sphere.
Yep.
But names that go, oh, this is an emerging artist, or this is an artist that's been around for a long time, but you didn't really, you didn't know the name, you didn't recognize it from the work, or you just didn't know what they were doing.
I was very happy to see Ebony G. Patterson's piece, the staple piece, because I remember seeing another work in 2017 at Art Basel with the No Commission to see these like various iterations of how the show has evolved and grown has also been special to see.
Great. That installation is just breathtaking and a powerful statement. And again, that's not a work that you can just put in the house.
Yep.
So I also wanted to give an opportunity for these works that I'm sure the deans do not get to have out regularly or just see, because they require a lot of time and energy just to put up. And also it's just such a visual spectacle. So I think it just really draws you in. And I think so many other works in the exhibition do as well.
Can you talk about that selection process? I mean, we hear the word curator, but I don't think we really understand what that means and the breadth of the work and how you created this experience as we navigate the exhibition.
It's a multi-step process, as you can imagine, and it was really starting with what I had access to in terms of the collection. So really looking through their collection and, again, trying to pull a range of names that had the recognition that it would draw a larger audience, but also including ones that I thought people aren't going to really know this artist probably, or they're going to know an aspect of this artist, but they're not going to know that work by them. I also wanted to have a good number of female artists in this show when I could. The deans, their collection tends to be heavily two-dimensionally focused. So when I could bring in 3D works like the Kennedy Yanko or the Nick Cave, sculptures of the Arthur Jaffa, wanted to do that. Just because you can get tired of just seeing things on a wall, like you want to kind of break it apart. So then it was also a matter of also thinking about, okay, how do these artworks work together? What is the artist saying in the work? What are the different techniques and styles? What are the different mediums? How can I try to encompass that and frame that in a way that a visitor is going to go, okay, I understand broadly what the curator is trying to show in this narrative. And then, but each artist is doing something a little different. And then on top of that, we wanted to, really develop an experience. So working with our exhibition designers to how do we kind of lay this out in some sort of narrative, visual. I think people don't also realize some part of curation can also be a bit about feel. We design things on checklists, we design it on plans, but then when you start to actually install it in the space, you kind of go, you know what? Those works don't make sense together. You think they do on the page for X, Y, and Z reason. Then you put them out, you go, we got to move some things. So there's adjusting that you want to do and then not only that, but then also with the dimensions of the frames and all of that, you want to make sure that there's some cool kind of design work there. So it's definitely a lot of negotiation between content, research, And I think also just experience is kind of like emotional feel too.
One of the pieces that or one of the sections I should say, that I felt when I walked in, and it was my favorite section, it was the Jamel Shabazz and Gordon Parks. I mean, I had to like walk through it and then walk back through it because photography is something that I just genuinely love. But to see both of them at the same time, it was almost like a watch the throne moment. What was the thinking behind that, to do that experience?
I think it was to your point, so one of the themes is, standing on the shoulders of giants, and where we had to kind of where we located that, those two works or sets of works, I should say, is you have a little bit of you can move in a few different directions. So it's like you're moving from standing on the shoulders to critiquing society, and then kind of ending celebrating Blackness. So to me, that feels like the beginning of Giant Presence. So to me, that room, that walkway is the antithesis of all of these sections combined in one. You have two different generations of powerful artists who are both finding joy within a society that they also are very cognizant has barriers to their life.
Yes.
So they're finding joy within the problems of society. And you see that on, both sides. And, since we brought a selection, like a larger number of those, there's a presence there. Maybe the works individually aren't of a large scale, but when you put them all together, like it really just, that's like a beautiful collection there that is like, there's strength in numbers. And I think it is one of those sections, especially, that different generations can really connect in different ways. You've got older images that are talking about pivotal civil rights moments in time. You also have brothers and sisters who are profiling.
Yep.
And you can hear their voices. It like, that even though you don't know them in the image, you know who they are.
Yeah, the voice of the OG. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And so I think it's showing pride in who we are as human, as Americans, for better or for worse, and just individuals, that we have the ability and the empowerment to style and profile, whether it is at a civil rights march or I'm just walking to get a drink for the evening, or I'm just walking with my family on a Sunday afternoon.
Right.
I think it's just a beautiful way to really connect to that work and the other works in the show.
With that connection comes conversation. Can you talk about these sectionals that I saw, the giant conversations? I love going to see art, but I love going to see art with somebody so we can have a conversation, whether it's afterwards, at dinner, over a drink, or what have you. They weren't so much prompts. They would just like, think about this for a second. That
was the whole idea. We're not trying to, everyone's going to have a different conversation as they're walking through, because different works are going to hit you however they hit you. But we at least wanted to point out that as beautiful and as visually dynamic as the artwork in this show is, there is so much rich material in terms of the discussion that the artist is trying to present. And we'll give you a hint of it, but ultimately, even if we tell you what the artist is trying to say, you as a viewer are going to bring your own experience, your own knowledge, your own background to it. So you can maybe acknowledge what the artist is going to say, but you are also going to bring what you want to need to it, and it may hit you differently, as we kind of said. So the idea is that all of the work is a conversation, and we're pointing out different ways that you can touch upon those conversations, whether you're thinking about the conversations among generations, the conversations, like I said, among style, artistic, among medium, among scale, and content. So it's all there, and it's really up to the visitor to just decide what is the conversation they want to have.
I think that's why it's so important to read the placards and to read what's on the wall, because it's literally there for a reason and unlocks the work.
Yes.
I know, like looking at Nick Cave's pieces, I was just lost in the detail and the buttons and just the precise gorgeousness of it. It has aesthetic, but it also has style.
Yeah.
But then when you read the placard and you learn more about that, it has a lot to do with concealing and protecting themselves, especially Black men. When I read that, I immediately saw a dozen examples where I know I had to protect myself with what I was wearing.
Yeah.
My mom still lives in the neighborhood I grew up in. And so the way I would visit my people in Florida is not the way I would visit my neighborhood, you know? And it's not about code switching for me at all. It's just, I know the costume of this stage and I'm still going to be me.
Right, exactly.
I just know that there's certain things that I don't necessarily want attention for because I'm in Southside Jamaica, Queens, and I just kind of want to get to where I need to get to and kind of get home.
Right.
Not saying that anything would happen to me because even in the city, like there's certain things that I wear that I just don't want attention. I just want to get to. And then if I have to go to an opening or if I'll dress up, do what I got to do. But even then I'm still just trying to get to that, shine at that, and then get back to the house. But I think that's also just a living in New York thing. But to see beyond the aesthetic and to get to the story and the intention and to connect the two of what was written with the artist's intentions or conversation was, and then how that relates to yourself is, to me, is why you would even visit the Brooklyn Museum.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad that you said that because we do spend a lot of time just trying to research as much as we can, you know, I mean, and I will very honestly say that I get a very short amount of word count to try and present incredibly complex ideas that these are, and I can, and usually I can touch on one or two, and there's always so much more. So we're not trying to tell you this is what it is. We're trying to say the artist is thinking about these things.
Yes.
So take from that what you need to then also add to what you're already thinking.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that I think audiences, depending on who the audience is, they want different things. Certain audiences want, tell me what this is, tell me what's happening.
Yes.
And I can't do that. I can't say, this is, the artist is because sometimes also you write something and then the artist goes like, oh, when did I say that?
Yes.
I mean, they forget that they made some comment. Or their ideas change over time
they
from
do
when
evolve.
they were, they evolve from when they first were making those things.
Yeah.
So it's not like art, like everything in the world is not static.
Right.
Other audiences don't want to read labels at all because they just want to have the moment with the piece and take from it what they can, that they see, which is great because honestly, as an art historian, I'm focused on the object. Like, what am I getting from the object? But at the same time, as living artists, I also want to hear from the artist too, because sometimes what I'm thinking and interpreting, because it is a matter of interpretation.
Yes.
You may be missing a lot that if you can get, you can get that from the artist as well, from the artist's mouth. So
sometimes people ask, like, how do I look at art or what have you, like maybe younger people, cousins or what have you. And I'm just like, find what moves you, gravitate to that, and then just go on the adventure. If this is what's moving you, find out more, get the story, get the history. But
exactly.
My other favorite part was the interview. That's like in the corner. You would walk right by it. But that I watched it twice at the press preview. That interview unlocks everything. Like all the right questions were asked and they really break it down. And I know you did the interview.
Thank you. Yes.
Was it a lot longer and then you condensed it down into those?
Yes. So we interviewed, we met for about a little over an hour.
Okay.
And we edited down because most people we knew people were not going to spend an hour, even 45 minutes. So we figured 20 to 30 minutes. But then when the catalog that will be coming out later in the spring, we did the main essay is the kind of transcript of the interview, slightly edited, so much longer. So you'll get to see more, hear more of the questions there. So you'll get to basically read the full interview.
The question that I have was in the interview. I just want to ask you, it was, what do you want people to take away from Giants?
I want our visitors to take away a few things. One, I want them to take away at least 3 names of artists that they did not know prior to coming to this show. I want them then to, as you pointed out earlier, to learn more about those 3 artists. Second thing I want them to think about is when you go to art shows, if you have an opportunity to slow down, not run through, but just really spend time with the work, I think you will have a more enjoyable experience and one that hopefully will remind you of the value of not only art, but of institutions like this. In whatever way, it doesn't have to be an art museum. Maybe you enjoy more of an aquarium. You enjoy the going dancing, it's singing, it's dance, whatever. But just that the arts are valuable.
Yes.
And I think the third thing that I really want people to take away is that you can be a collector too. You do not have to have a very large budget to begin. So kind of segueing into like the value of art.
Yes.
The power of having art around you in whatever way that is. It's experience, like you have using your senses, was the visual, the auditory, touch, taste, feel. So inspiring them to go out, how can I have art in my own home?
And I saw it in the gift shop, not to promote a gift shop, but in the brand new gift shop, there are these 1 of 100 records that's a piece of art. Like you could start there. It's
Exactly.
It's a curated selection from Swizz Beatz of his favorite jazz, from what I gathered from just kind of like looking at it for a couple of seconds.
Right.
It looks like that. It looks like walking through Soho and stopping by one of the tables and having a conversation, more than likely with one of the artists or one of the photographers who may be selling their work, holding a camera. They might take a picture of you. It doesn't have to be, and it can make its way to, because I love that story of Swizz talking about how he acquired the Kehinde Wiley piece in the interview. Like that conversation that he had was just fantastic, because he was like,
I said, I want to buy that piece right there. And he was like, no, it's not for sale. And I was like, okay. He was like, man, it's interesting that you asked me about that piece. It's the only piece in the show that I own. And I was like, ding, 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 ding. And then I just asked him one simple question. I said, after the show, where are you going to put the work? And then he was like, damn, you're good. I said, look, you just said to me that there's not a lot of people of color collecting your work. I think that by this going back in storage, where it was for 7 years, rather than us displaying it, you can take it back whenever you want, because we have a policy in the Dean collection that the artists can borrow their work whenever they want to. Like, we don't hold artists' work from them for retrospect shows or whatever the case may be within reason. I said, look, you can have the work back when you want it. But I think that when people come to our home, they should see this piece. It should represent the community. And that's how the journey got started. And I got a couple of phone calls after that. But long story short, it started our journey with Kehinde, and it started our journey with the Dean Collection as well.
But it was good to see, because I remember seeing that piece in 2015 at the New Republic.
Exhibition.
Yeah, exactly. It was a great show. And so to see it again, I was like, damn, okay, it's out. It's kind of like back in the days when we were kids and like, we're re-releasing this Disney VHS. Like, we're bringing back this. Right. So like to bring art back out.
Open the Disney vault.
Yeah. So to see that Kehinde Wiley back out on the block or back in these streets, it was good to see.
Yeah.
What has been one of the most important things that you've learned curating this show specifically?
Wow, I have not been asked that yet. So it's not so much what I learned, but what was reaffirmed. And what was reaffirmed to me was I have some of the best colleagues out there, because I'm the one getting interviewed for this, for this exhibition. And yes, I did a lot of work on it. I will not deny that.
Right.
I will not deny that.
I will say this, in that little 10-second interaction we had, I said, congratulations. And you smiled and you said it was a group effort. And then you kept it pushing. And I was like, salute. I respect that.
Thank you. Because, there were just so many other people involved. I mean, every department in this museum worked on this show. Not every single person, but every department. And that's why, if you come back, you'll see, a whole acknowledgments panel that really shows everybody who worked on this. My curatorial assistant, Indira Biscaroon, wrote, she did so much research. She wrote all the labels with me, contacting the artists so we could do interviews with them. We worked together on, we did artist bios for the catalog, riffed on each other on just ideas, the project manager, our editors, the dean's team. I mean, like all their colleagues were so involved in getting everything together. So shows like this really take not a village, but a city. And what I learned is that when you have great relationships with good people, what you achieve is stellar. And not only is it stellar, but it develops into a family. So like the deans consider the artists like their family. It's not a transaction. My colleagues are so like, my project manager is my wife. Like she has a husband, but like we also like she is definitely my curatorial assistant. Like I got a lot of work wives here.
Yeah.
And I say that jokingly, but I also like do mean that these people will be in my life forever. We've worked so hard together over the past few years working on, this show. And I just, I'm just so grateful and thankful for it.
And it shows. And that's all I got for you. I genuinely was
my gosh, thank you.
Yeah, I didn't want to like rush it at the event, at the press thing, because I know you were being bombarded. And so
I appreciate, because I was just kind of trying to get them all done. And, so this was a much nicer, calmer.
Yeah.
And I gave me a second to get my thoughts together.
That's it. So thank you. I sincerely appreciated your time.
Of course.
We'll be in touch. Have a great day.
You too.
All right.
Thank you so much.